In this video, we'll learn about Southwest Minnesota Arts Council's Quick Support for Organizations grants for fiscal year 2026, which runs from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. The Quick Support for Organizations grant program provides organizations with more quickly accessible funds for planning and small projects, such as small arts projects, small equipment purchases, planning for public art projects, arts organization development, and arts organization startup projects. Funding is available for up to $2,500, and the source of those funds is Minnesota's Arts and Cultural Heritage or Legacy Fund. Applicant organizations need to be located in Southwest Minnesota Arts Council or SMOC's service area, which consists of 18 counties and 2 tribal nations, including Big Stone, Chanshayapi or Lower Sioux Community, Chippewa, Cottonwood, Jackson, Candy, Ojai, Lac-Oparle, Lincoln, Lyon, McLeod, Meeker, Murray, Nobles, Pajutazizi or Upper Sioux Community, Pipestone, Redwood, Renville, Rock, Swift, and Yellow Medicine. We acknowledge that the Southwest Minnesota region occupies the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of the Dakota people. Quick Support for Organizations grants are open to 501c3 nonprofit organizations, units of government, including city, county, and tribal government, and schools with community-focused projects. There are a few exceptions to eligibility for some project types. For instance, some are only open to arts organizations, and schools can only do the small art project type. As we talk about each project type next, we'll go over which kinds of organizations are eligible for each of those. If your organization is operating in the spirit of a nonprofit but doesn't have its 501c3 status yet, you can apply using a fiscal sponsor, which is an organization that does meet our eligibility requirements, and they would receive and manage your project funds for you. Your application will then need to include an agreement outlining how the relationship will work between your 2 organizations, and someone from the fiscal sponsor organization will need to sign all grant-related documents, including your application. We'll go through the different project types that you could have. The first one is a small arts project, and this is open to nonprofit organizations, units of government, and schools with community-focused projects. Activities can include things like arts exhibits or performances, art classes for community members of all ages, and public art. And these are the same kinds of activities that are eligible in the larger art project grant, though no operating expenses can be included here. The small equipment purchase project type is open to nonprofit organizations and units of government. Schools are not eligible for this project type, and non-arts organizations will need to show that the purchases or improvements serve community arts needs, and these purchases could include things like sound and lighting equipment, art studio equipment, computers or software, storage, and structural improvements, like improvements for accessibility, signage, etc. The public art planning project type is open to nonprofit organizations and units of government, and this is for planning for a specific large-scale physical public art project, like a mural or a sculpture that will have a strong arts legacy. Kinds of activities you could apply for include gathering community input, doing the process of requesting proposals from artists, determining your available resources and project costs, and researching the feasibility or sustainability of the actual project. So everything that you would need to do in order to prepare for applying for the larger public art grant. Our next project type is arts organization development, and it is open to arts organizations only, which would be organizations whose mission is focused primarily on the arts. And this would provide funding for increasing long-term stability and capacity through organizational development and management projects. So this could fund things like training for staff or board members, going to workshops or conferences, hiring consultants to help your organization with board development, strategic planning, marketing, fundraising, etc. This is the program through which you could get a new website for your organization. You could do things like conducting surveys to determine community needs, for the work of developing a new program or service. And our final project type is Arts Organization Startup. Again, this is open to arts organizations only. And activities could include things like developing your articles of incorporation and bylaws and filing for 501c3 nonprofit status. You will need to have done enough organizing so far to have board members at this point and have already done some programming, but you're now ready to do the legal part. There are some activities that are not eligible for these grants. These include projects that don't have an art focus, proposals for staff salaries or contracted staff, requests for new building construction, purchase of real estate or endowment funds, educational projects within a school system, activities that take place outside of Minnesota since we are using state funds, religious socialization of the participants or audience. Also ineligible are fundraising events. These grants are meant to help your project break even, not to make a profit, and you also cannot do fundraising for any other cause as part of your project. Also ineligible are payments of debts incurred before the grant begins. These grant funds being used to match another SMOC grant, receiving a direct Minnesota legislative appropriation or legislatively mandated grant from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund for fiscal year 2026. And this would be something that is allocated directly to your organization by the state legislature. And finally, applicants with a past due final report still outstanding are ineligible. Be aware that we have an overall funding limit for organizations. Organizations are limited to $20,000 per year in SMOC grant funds across all of our grant programs. So this might require your organization to do some planning at the beginning of the year to figure out what you want to be able to apply for during that time. The Quick Support for Organizations grant program has a monthly deadline, which is the first of the month from August through May. And the earliest date that you can start your project would be the first day of the following month. As an example, if you submitted an application in time for the August 1st deadline, you could start your project on September 1st. With all of these deadlines, they must be submitted by 4 p.m. on that date. You'll need to choose a start date for your project, so check for that earliest allowed start date because you can't start any project activities before that date. These activities could include things like ordering supplies, holding auditions or rehearsals, doing any advertising, whether paid for by the grant or not, making payments to artists or consultants. So you can't expend any funds before the project start date. If there's something you do need to pay for before that start date, if you have to put a deposit on a contract, for instance, then you could not include that amount in your grant project budget. You also need to choose a project end date and make sure to give yourself time to complete everything involved in your project and then evaluate the project. Projects that are awarded a grant in fiscal year 2026 need to be finished up by June 30th of 2027. So that is the latest end date that you could have. In preparing to fill out your application, these are the kinds of questions you'll need to answer and materials you'll need to gather. And you'll need to start out by choosing your project type, and different questions will show up that will be more relevant to your project depending on which type you have selected. So you'll need to provide a description of your project activities and timeline, and then depending on the type of project you have, you may need to provide artist resumes or bios and work samples along with your rationale for choosing those artists. You may need to provide consultant or contractor qualifications or proposals and your rationale for choosing them. You may also need to provide equipment specs, photos of the space you'll be working in, etc. And that will be dependent on your project type. Other questions you'll need to be able to answer include your plans for reaching those who are underserved or underrepresented in your community. And this could either be through your specific project that you're doing or things that your organization does in general, depending on the type of project you're doing. You'll need to provide your proposed project outcomes and an evaluation plan, estimated audience or participant numbers, an itemized budget, an organization summary and board list, some demographic and organization data, and contact information for your project director and authorizing official. Your project director would be the person who is most directly responsible for the day-to-day activities of the project. The authorizing official would be someone who has authorizing power for your organization, like the president or treasurer. And these two different roles cannot be filled by the same person. They need to be two different people, and both will need to sign all of your grant documents, including the application. Our grant reviewers will score your application on the following criteria. They will look at the impact of the project, which is worth 67% of your score, and your ability to accomplish the project, worth 33% of your score. In more detail, looking at the impact criteria, reviewers will look to see if you have identified proposed changes that you hope will take place as a result of the project. They'll see if you have plans to measure whether those changes have taken place. They will look to see if the underserved or underrepresented in your community are enabled to participate either in this project or in your organization activities in general. And finally, that the intent of the project type is fulfilled. And those project type intents include, for the small art project, does it provide potential for participants to develop knowledge, skills, and understanding of the arts? For a small equipment purchase, does it strengthen your ability to provide high-quality arts activities, and are you able to explain which specific programs or events will benefit? For public art planning, the activities should enable your final project to be well planned, of high artistic quality and merit, and aligned with the artistic needs of the community. For arts organization development, the project type intent is that activities will help your organization achieve increased capacity and long-term stability. And for arts organization startup, they're looking that your organization will play an important role in community artistic development, as demonstrated by things like the artistic quality and merit of your activities, the strength of your operations, and the expected effects you hope the 501c3 process will have on your organization. And the other part of the criteria include your ability to accomplish the project. So they will look to see if you have a clear plan with a reasonable timeline, if your project has capable and committed personnel, whether those are from your organization or consultants or contractors that you're bringing in. They'll look to see that your budget is clearly itemized, responsible, and meets the needs of the project, and that there is an appropriate marketing or publicity plan if that is applicable. SMOC staff can offer assistance in several ways as you work on your application. You can talk through your project with us before getting started and make sure your project is eligible, you're applying under the right grant program and deadline. You can get answers to your questions about the application as you're starting to work on that. And SMOC staff can also review your application before you submit it. If you let us know up to about 2 weeks before the deadline, we can guarantee we're able to look at that and give you some feedback on whether you're missing anything, if anything might sound confusing to the reviewers, etc. There are also many resources available for you on our website at swmnarts.org. The site includes guidelines and criteria, important dates, a preview of application and report questions. There are also instructional videos available, including how to use the online grant system, how the grant process works, and some grant writing topics like reaching underserved and underrepresented communities and grant goals and evaluation. You'll also find workshop opportunities, both virtual and in person. Also on the website are some sample documents so you can see what a contract looks like, for instance, along with credit lines and logos you may need to use. There is a login to the online grant system and multiple ways to connect with SMOC staff. Thanks for learning about Southwest Minnesota Arts Council's Quick Support for Organizations grants. Please contact us with any questions or visit our website for more information.